Aloha and welcome to another episode of Talk Story Time. We're backstage at the Kahilu Theatre and my guest today is Jacob Rajan.
Aloha.
Did I get your last name right?
Yeah, perfect.
All right, cool.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
Welcome back to the Big Island and the Kahilu Theatre.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
Yeah, I was looking back at some of our old articles and it looks like your show was one of the last shows at the theater before they shut down.
Oh, really?
March 2020? Late February 2020?
Oh, yes, that wasn't
Yeah.
my show.
Oh.
I mean, I wrote it, but it was
Okay.
other actors, so I wasn't
Okay.
here.
Well, Indian Ink, yeah.
Yeah, Indian
Okay.
Ink was here, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, no, that's right. I remember the actors only just got back before all the borders closed in New Zealand. So it was by the skin of our teeth.
Touch and go there, huh? Well, we have a new show today, Paradise or the Impermanence of Ice Cream. Tell our listeners what that all means.
Well, I guess it's this notion of paradise is within it, and I guess embedded in that is the one of the inspirations of the work is a Pulitzer Prize-winning book by Ernst Becker called Denial of Death. And I guess it posits the idea that everything we do as human beings is predicated by the fact that we are the only species that knows that we're going to die. And just take a moment to think about that. Like nothing else does. We know that we're going to die. And it kind of screws us up. We put all sorts of buffers between us and that very unpalatable thought. So Ernst Becker would say that everything we do, religion, art, culture, finance, these are all kind of immortality projects. Projects that sort of keep that thing at bay.
That unknown mystery date.
Yeah, that little worm in the core of us.
The expiration date.
Yeah. And we were fascinated with that idea. But I also, Justin and I happened to be in India researching a completely different project, and we stumbled across this community. I was aware of the community, the Parsi community. They're an ethnic minority within India. I know about them because one of my previous plays had a sort of cameo of Freddie Mercury from Queen in the play, and Freddie Mercury was a Parsi. And so I knew something about the Parsi faith and that group that predominantly they're in Mumbai in India, but they fled religious persecution in Persia, but were granted passage in India and formed a very vibrant community. Now the thing about the Parsis is they have this very interesting death practice. When a Parsi dies, they are laid out in these towers, naked. They're called the Towers of Silence. And they're left there for the vultures to eat. So the Parsis have a very close relationship with the vulture. And a vulture can strip a body to bone in 30 minutes. So in a way, it's a very environmentally sound kind of practice. There's no pollution of the earth, there's no pollution of the air. And basically death turns into life. You know, it goes through that cycle.
Sure.
So that wasn't the strange thing. The strange thing was that doing some more research, we found that over a period of 10 years, the vultures in India practically disappeared. And the Parsis were alerted to it first because their bodies weren't being eaten. And so we found this utterly fascinating, and it was a mystery for about 10 years.
Wow. That's a long time, yeah.
Yeah. Well, nobody kind of noticed. And the vultures, you got to understand that in India, we have a very unique relationship with the vultures because we are the second biggest dairy producer in the world. We have a lot of cows, but we don't eat them.
Right.
You know, mostly we don't eat them. When they die, we leave them for the vultures. And so this has created a very symbiotic relationship between us and the bird. And so when there were billions of them, and then somebody noticed that there weren't so many. And then when they did some more digging, they found there was a 99% decline in their population.
Wow.
99%.
Almost extinct.
The fastest mass extinction of all time.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Nobody knows about it.
Okay.
Nobody knows about it. And so this play isn't a biological documentary or anything. We have a fictional story, but it carries within it this mystery. And of course, the thing about vultures is they're so intimately tied with death within the Western perception of harbingers of death.
Deserts and
bad omens, things like that.
Sure.
I think they're given quite a bad rap. They do
Yeah.
an incredibly valuable service in terms of cleaning up the environment. Their stomach acid is so strong it eliminates anthrax, it eliminates tuberculosis.
They're our friends.
It eliminates rabies.
Oh my gosh.
When the vultures disappear, the rabies epidemic appeared within India. The wild dog population exploded because so much of those cow carcasses I talked about were available for the dogs because the vultures weren't eating them anymore. And when you have more wild dogs, you have more rabies. And so you suddenly see how fine a balance this thing was.
Yeah, with that species. Yeah. Sure.
And so you're obviously wanting to know how the vultures disappeared.
Yeah, and how did they come back?
Come to see the play.
Oh, man, you're not going to do that, man. Don't do me like that, man. So, well, okay. I'm going to see the play later. But, well, out of curiosity, can you say how the vultures came back?
They haven't come back.
They haven't come back?
No.
Okay.
Like you said, they are functionally extinct. Because the tragic thing is they lay one egg a year. And it takes 5 years for a chick to reach sexual maturity.
Oh, man.
They actually, my thought was, you see these birds, they must be like eagles. They see their food from miles away. They smell their food. They have this incredible sense perception. But the thing about vultures, they actually find food by following other vultures. And so when you lose the population density, finding food becomes very difficult. They're not solo birds. They work as a community to pull a carcass apart. They have specialist birds that take care of different parts of the animal, to open the hide, to pick the bones.
Gosh.
They're very kind of, a group culture.
Wow.
And so when they get hit, like they did, the ramifications, there is a breeding program and they're trying to get them back, but it's a very slow process. So we're holding our breath on that one.
Okay, so how does ice cream tie into this all?
Well, within our fiction that we've created, there's this character from a previous play of mine, Guru of Chai, which I brought to Hawaii several years ago. And we've taken to this idea of taking characters from previous plays because we love them. We know so much about them. And then we start wondering what happened to them. And when you follow that path a while, you come up with an idea. And this idea is that this character, Kurasa, from the previous play, has wound up in Hawaii. He's working at Costco. He used to be a spiritual guide. And now he's facing this very, very kind of existential crisis. He wakes up in a room alone with a vulture. And then he has to figure out why. And the audience is figuring that out as well.
Okay.
So he's pitched back to his youth, his glory days in Mumbai, where he sort of meets and befriends a Parsi girl. And the Parsi girl has inherited an ice cream shop. And that's where the ice cream comes in.
Okay.
Now, Mumbai has a special kind of ice cream called kulfi. And it's sort of India's ancient precursor to ice cream. It's made with condensed milk. It's a different texture, but it's delicious. And so this kulfi shop becomes the central location of the story.
Fascinating. I feel like I'm a vulture expert now, and you made me hungry. You made me hungry for ice cream. So,
so win-win.
So I understand there's a real-life mystery in the show. Maybe we've already touched upon it, or is there a story behind that too?
That's
it.
Vulture.
That's the real-life
mystery.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Okay. Well, let's talk about the origins of Indian ink and what they offer.
Well, we're 25 years old this year.
This year?
Yeah. It's our
Happy
silver anniversary.
Thank
you.
Yeah.
Which is extraordinary in New Zealand. Well, possibly in the world, I think. Holding a theatre company for that long is quite an accomplishment.
And through a pandemic, too.
Yeah. I mean, I always say, one of my favorite quotes is from the movie Shakespeare in Love, where a character says about theatre, the natural condition is insurmountable obstacles on the road to imminent disaster. That's just our natural state. So when the pandemic rolled in, there was a part of us that went, oh yeah,
Here it
Okay,
is.
here it is.
They warned us.
Yeah, but obviously with a career based on mass gathering, it was a particularly bad time. Having said that, it's been an extraordinary run, 25 years, and we've created 11 original works. We only do original work. We don't do anybody else's. It takes us about 2 years to put a show together. And we've managed to tour those works internationally. So although the name of the company is Indian Ink and I am Indian, they're not bound by a sort of cultural, there's a cultural lens that is my lens, but Justin, my director and co-writer, he's a Kiwi. And so our worldview is slightly skewed from being at the bottom of the world. So all of these things that we look at are through that sort of Pacific lens of being isolated, of being the furthest corner away from everything. And we take traditional forms of mask and puppetry, and because there's no readily available experts to tell us how to use them, we kind of make it up.
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sort of given the work a sort of bastard authenticity, which
I've never heard that term before.
audiences really respond to. You know, a lot of the traditional stuff can be bound by tradition, and it becomes a sort of museum piece of doing it the right way. It becomes a little bit like classical ballet. But we always see the power of those things like mask and puppetry, and then we Indian Inkify them. We work out how they become relevant for a contemporary audience.
Interesting.
And so that's been our sort of modus operandi for 25 years, and it seems to be working. Touch wood.
Well, there's a puppet in the show and a puppeteer, the Vulture.
Extraordinary. John Coddington, award-winning puppeteer.
Can you talk about how that where they came from and how that? I mean, we know how that works in.
Yeah. I mean, we knew we needed a vulture.
Yeah.
And John Coddington is probably one of the best puppet. What's extraordinary about John is he makes the puppet and he operates it. So that we've worked with puppets before, but we never have the luxury of having the puppet maker actually operating, and that leads to a whole kind of empathy with the puppet that just a normal puppeteer, however skilled they are, if they don't understand how it's made and its skeletal structure and all of the research that John's put into that, it's going to be a little bit diluted. But John's right in there with that bird, and when you see it, you will be freaked out how alive it is. And he's actually playing sort of 3 different kinds of vulture. There's a sort of vulture in a sort of afterlife spirit guide animal kind of sense. And there's also a real vulture within the backstory of this guy who's thrown back to his childhood in India. So those two, with the one puppet, he's exhibiting a different kind of quality. One's a very animal quality, and the other one's a more spiritual quality.
Wow.
And how he does it, I don't know, but it's incredible to watch.
Does he also do the voices as well?
Yeah.
Wow. So he studied that too,
Yeah,
obviously.
he did.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we there's an incredible soundscape within the show. Our composer David Ward has literally got traffic noise and from Mumbai, street noise, and all of those things are laid in multiple speaker arrangements, so you feel completely immersed in the sound because the staging itself is very bare. The audience has to bring their imagination, but the thing that is real is the sound. All the sounds that you hear are incredibly evocative of the various locations. And that we tried to do that with the vulture noise as well. We thought we'd record real vultures and get John, but it didn't work as well as him providing the voice. I think that's the natural thing.
It looks like there's some dramatic lighting in the show too, to kind of set the different moods and everything.
No, like I said, that what I love about theatre, what I think it has over film and TV, and that's what we always do at Indian Ink, is play to theatre's strengths, is the power of the audience's imagination. And you can suggest things with light and dark that is far better than a literal kind of projection of things. So I see projection used in theatre in that literal form, and it sort of leaves me cold, because I think if you wanted a literal projection of a street, then why don't you just go see a film? But what we have with John Verreit's design is projection, but they're amazing, almost expressionistic paintings. The colours are suggestive of something, and they're beautiful. But you only get it when you put together the characters giving you the location, and then you understand why those colours work. Like the kulfi shop, the ice cream shop, it's a riot of colour, but it's not literal a board of flavours or images of vats of ice cream or anything like that.
And the ambient noise of an ice cream shop.
Yeah, that's right. The bell going of customers coming in.
Yeah, nice.
The tapping of the...
Sort of a bit of a theater of the mind, too. Kind of,
Totally.
Yeah. I love it. So I understand you play 7 different characters in Paradise.
That's right, yeah.
That's a challenge, too, right?
It is. I guess it's sort of my training, though. I mean, I've done a lot of solo work with Indian Ink, and the mask work is often multiple characters with different masks, delineating each character. Here, I'm essentially unmasked, although I do have teeth, which are sort of orthodontically made for my mouth and utterly change my face. And so I say it qualifies as a mask. Anything that is inanimate, that is a sort of, makes a gap between myself and this character that I have to fill with my body and my voice, that's a mask. You can have body masks, you can have heavy stage makeup, that's still a mask. It's just that thing that makes you a little bit more amplified. And that little Dumbo's feather allows me to enter into all the other characters as well. Just with the amount of work that I've done with mask, I feel it's been my sort of training into this kind of work where Guru of Chai had 17 characters. So, but this has 7 characters who are far more sustained, and Guru of Chai played 6 sisters, and that you'd have vignettes of those sisters that were like half a second. But here we have sustained periods of dialogue, 3 people talking to each other, 4 people on stage, all played by me. And the trick is that the audience will be convinced and know exactly who is who at any one point and believe it.
Wow.
When you can get to audiences to believe at that level, I think everything becomes far more powerful, far more poetic. There's a sort of profundity in the things that you're talking about that go with that amplification. It's also an amplification of the truth. I find naturalism to be truth with a small t, but this kind of theatrical truth is really felt. Fascinating.
Wow. Indian Ink has a philosophy you call the serious laugh. Can you talk about the origins of what that is?
Yeah, I guess it comes a lot from my own personal taste, probably because I'm an actor, is that I love making an audience laugh. And so comedy is present in all our work. That is a given. It will always be funny. But comedy on its own is sort of candy floss. At its worst, it can be sickly. You're laughing and laughing, but there's nothing at the end of it. So what we talk about with the serious laugh is opening the audience's mouths with laughter in order to slip something serious in. It's sort of the Trojan horse. We warm them up with laughter and then pull the rug out from under them. So this idea of the vultures and the crisis that they are, we could make that incredibly depressing because it kind of is. But when you see the show, you will understand their crisis and you will feel their crisis, but it won't be heavy. It'll be leavened with laughter, and I believe that mixture of the head and the heart is really what we go to the theatre for. And that's what we always attempt to have in our work, hence the philosophy.
What would you like the audience to take away from the performance? What's your goal with the play today?
My take on that sort of thing is that what the beauty of the mask and the theatre is the openness with which the audience experiences the work, because they all have their own filter that they come in with, and I want the work to be open enough for them to. It sounds like I'm fudging the answer, but it's one of those things where I want them to if they feel the environmental the environmental danger that the vulture's in, great, but I don't want it to be that one thing. If they feel for the friendship, this fragile friendship of these two people, and the I guess the sense of regret of a man at the end of it, towards the end of his life, of things that he didn't do, of the chances he didn't take, that's another thing that could be there. And a lot of people with this work, especially over COVID, I never intended to write this into it, but people are coming up to me afterwards and saying, I have a friend that I wasn't able to say goodbye to. And this work made me experience that and was cathartic in that way. That was never my intention, but I love that they were able to see that. That's the poetry of the thing. Poetry, I don't believe, should be one thing.
Yeah.
And so theatre, I think, is more akin with poetry than, say, any other literary tradition. It is about metaphor, and therefore what I want the audience to go away with is whatever they go away with.
Yeah.
But more than anything in this time, during this particular epoch that we're in,
Sure.
I want them to have entered as strangers and leave having experienced something together in the same room, sharing the same air. That is precious now.
Wow.
And so it has to have been worth it. That's what I want them to leave with, that it was worth it.
Nice. Can't wait to see the play. What's the rest of the year look like for Indian Ink and you? Are you going to plan to?
Well, it's
with
our
things
silver
opening up?
anniversary, Steve.
Yeah.
So we're not holding back. This COVID has taught us that most things that we intend to do are mirages until they actually happen. We get this close to something and then poof, it goes. So we have to walk 1 foot at a time, and then when it can't happen, we pivot and go somewhere else. But at the moment, we're celebrating our 25th year by bringing back our first play, Krishnan's Dairy, my little piece that I created at drama school. We're going to dust that off and bring back those characters, because there are people who saw that play and were pregnant who can now bring their 25-year-old child and experience that play.
Yeah.
That play has a sequel, which is the play that we talked about before that came to Waimea, Mrs. Krishnan's Party.
Right.
So they can watch that back to back as a double feature if they want in New Zealand.
Yeah.
As well, we're presenting a brand new work. This is over the COVID hit that we took last year. We created a brand new play, and it's called Dirty Work. It's working with community choirs, unrehearsed. They have a bunch of songs that they do know how to sing, but when they turn up at the theatre, they don't know the story that they're in. And 3 actors will guide them through the story, casting them as office workers in an office.
Wow.
And we did a trial workshop of it last year, and it was so brilliant to see these perplexed people come in and then become actors within an hour. No rehearsal. They're on, and the audience is experiencing everything live as these incredibly skilled actors guide them through the story. And there is a story, and it's a powerful story as well.
Well, I think one of the beauties that the Kahilu Theatre offers is they have a live streaming service called Kahilu TV. So if somebody listening to this podcast wasn't able to attend, they can watch it on Kahilu TV. And this is, I guess, our conversation today is kind of a pre-guide, if you will, to the show itself there.
That's right. Yeah, no, I'm very excited about that. I've never done this before the live stream, so this is new for me.
And they can watch it anytime they want to. Totally. That's kind of the beauty of it all. Something we learned from COVID is that there's other opportunities. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
No, I mean, if you can see that live stream, obviously the live show is great, and we're going to be in Hilo in a couple of days. So,
really?
Another chance there.
Really? Oh, great.
Wednesday night.
Nice. Where can I send listeners to the Indian Ink's website?
Yeah.
Can they see clips of the play itself?
Yeah, we've got trailers and things like that, and,
good.
And more information about the things that we've talked about, the vultures, all of that kind of stuff, that background information. If you're that kind of person that wants to be a bit kind of nerdy and read up about things beforehand, go to www.indianink, that's INK, .co.nz.
NZ?
NZ, sorry.
Okay.
That's right. That's my Kiwi,
Okay.
Kiwi accent.
Okay, I was going to say. Anyway, Jacob, thank you so much for your time today. Aloha. Welcome back to the Big Island, and really looking forward to this play.
Mahalo.
Okay, all right, thank you.